Ayo, it's Joe, aka Mad UFC. I thoroughly enjoyed this movie a lot more than I thought I would. I was of course interested to see how the movie would be, but my expectations weren't really high. Like, I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it was. Mainly due to my thoughts on The Rock as an actor. I have absolutely nothing against Dwayne. I think he's awesome and great as a person. As far as his acting, I always feel that there is more to be desired. It just feels like in most of his acting roles, he always plays the same type of character. The strong, pompous, comedic buff guy who mostly just flexes his muscles while constantly doing and saying unfunny things that are supposed to be funny. He pretty much never actually puts much into being the character, and more so just plays himself. I was sitting in the theater reading reviews for the Black Adam movie, and a review from Good Morning America was making me think that Dwayne Johnson actually does the character justice and portrays him accurate to the comics. In GMA's review, they say the film deprives The Rock of all his wicked sass and exuberance that he is known for in most of the films he's in, and that in Black Adam he's just a poster boy for anger management. I'm not going to lie and say I know about Black Adam. I've never even read any comics with him in it. But from what I do know of him, I'm pretty sure he is a very serious, intimidating, dangerous person who doesn't joke, is mostly not happy or joyful, and is an antagonist for the most part, except to the people of his home, Kahndaq. I do not care about other people's opinions of movies or shows. I'll watch them myself and form my own opinion. I was just curious, though, to see what other people thought about the film, so I read a few reviews while I waited. From GMA's review, I was getting the impression that they're just casual movie watchers who don't know or care about the character, and don't like that Dwayne wasn't being his usual sassy and goofy self that a lot of casual people love him for in the movies he's in. So while that review maybe turned off some people from watching the movie, it actually made me a bit more excited. I was hoping he actually would step up to the plate and become serious for once, instead of goofy while portraying Teth Adam. And wow, did he deliver. Yeah, he was still playing a pompous buff guy, but it actually was okay in this movie because from what I know, is how the character is in the comics. He's obviously buff in the comics, and I wouldn't be surprised if he is also egotistical and condescending in the books too. There wasn't really much sass from him except for a few different moments, though Dwayne just has a natural charm and charisma to him, which felt nice to see implemented into the character's personality. What I really wasn't expecting from The Rock's portrayal was for the surprisingly decent amount of comedy from Teth Adam to actually work and be quite hilarious. Unlike some of his other characters where he is intentionally doing and saying things to try and be funny, with Black Adam he did some reverse psychology that ended up being pretty effective in a good way. He did the exact opposite of what he usually does for comedy, and instead used the character's fish out of water scenario to his advantage by having the character unintentionally do things that actually were funny. I want to discuss separately each of the unintentionally comedic things he did, as I have specific thoughts to say about each of them. After the Crown Lady, yeah, I've seen the film twice now but still don't remember her name, but do know how Sam Hill bent she was about the Demon Crown, so for this video I'm calling her Crown Lady. After she Shazammed Teth Man from his ancient slumber, early in the film, he did this bit where he repeatedly just bulldozed through walls as if it was paper mache. It was hilarious because he was just doing it so nonchalantly and carelessly when he could have just walked through doors and avoided so much unnecessary damage. The very first time he did it, I was audibly laughing because of how it was filmed in a single shot with him getting up, and then as soon as he turned his back to the camera, He just plows through the wall without any words said or any cut in the scene until after he's already walked through. He did it at random quite a few times, and it was paid off in a cleverly hilarious way when he told Kent that he knows what a doorway is, what they're used for, and even had them early in his time. So, okay, he said he understands the concept of doorways, meaning that he intentionally chose to demolish every wall in sight just because he more or less just couldn't be bothered to find the doorways that led out of or into each room he's in. I honestly find that to be one of the funniest moments in the entire movie. That moment leads right into the other comedic thing Teth Adam had going on in the film, which was his sarcasm. Once Kent taught him the concept of it. Alright, so I can often be very sarcastic. Sarcasm is often what I use in life whenever I'm expressing anything I might be frustrated or agitated about. Basically saying things like, "Oh yeah, that's great, very happy about that," or, "Yep, that makes complete sense," when in actuality is something that I think isn't great or doesn't make sense. Though, I'm also often sarcastic just for the fun of it. Sarcasm is one way of how I express myself, and I absolutely love hearing sarcasm in media when it's done well. Teth Adam made multiple sarcastic replies throughout the film once he understood how it works, and my favorite sarcastic remark from him was when Crown Lady told everyone, "You're all gonna work as a team to get my son back," and Teth replied with, "I love working in teams." It was that reply, but also his next reply to his own sarcasm, that I thought was hilarious. Teth had made it more than clear that he is a literal one-man army who does not like working with others. Meaning it was obvious that he was being sarcastic when saying he loves working in teams, and you could hear it in the tone he said it in. Kent knew this as well and responded with, "That was sarcasm, wasn't it?" And then Teth said, "Very much so." For me, that was funny and was another one of the funniest moments in the movie. Like I said though, I'm just a sucker for well done sarcasm in media, so for me, it was probably funnier than it was for most people. Comedic moments aside though, something else about him actually had me very surprised. I don't know if he's like this in the comics, but in the film, Teth had a lot of etiquette and spoke very proper. Okay, aside from his boastful attitude and wrecking through walls. His etiquette came more from the way he spoke to certain people in certain moments, and the gestures he did for certain people in certain moments. I definitely wasn't expecting to see a character like Black Adam be such a polite, utmost modest person when he isn't boasting about how nobody can defeat him, or isn't unnecessarily killing people or causing collateral damage. I wasn't expecting it, but it was a very welcomed attribute to his character. Seeing the character have empathy and sympathy was great too. This was mostly shown when Crown Lady pleaded him to save her son from Intergang, and he did his best to find and rescue him. Wow. It's actually insane that a fictional character who's so hardcore, stone cold, and savage actually has more care and compassion for other human beings than over 80% of the adult male human population in our real world. You know, all the older, jagged, toughened, hardened boomer males who take pride in and think is right for men to not show or express their feelings or emotions. Alright, I'm starting to derail a bit. That's a whole other discussion for another video. Now that I've talked in depth about Teth Adam's personality, I can discuss the wild, bat-crazy fight scenes. Most notably, the whole fight from when Crown Lady woke him from his nap, all the way until Intergang made him go night-night with the Ethereum rocket. Alright, it's not really called Ethereum, but after watching the film twice, I still don't remember how the mineral was pronounced. So for this video, I'm calling it Ethereum. That fight, man. That fight went crazy. They really pushed the PG-13 rating to the max here. Like, I was surprised as frick by the brutal display of a fight that went down here. I mean, it wasn't even a fight. It was a freaking no mercy, unfair, unmatched massacre. In that GMA review I mentioned earlier in the video, the reviewer said that there were so many slow motion scenes during the fights, and while there were slow motion parts, there were way more fast motion. Wait, is that an actual word combo? I'll make one for the video. There were way more fast motion scenes during Black Adam's fights than there were slow motion ones. During the cave fight, he was zapping, punching, flinging, and frying people at lightning speed. And it was so awesome to see. Like, in my mind, I was like, yo, this is freaking insane! Look how quick and brutal this all is! I was having a wonderful time watching Teth Adam murking those guys, and just as good of a time seeing him take out the rest of them, along to the jam of Paint It Black. I imagine a lot of critics probably thought the choice of song was very cliche and typical, but me, I didn't really care. First off, I'm just a sucker for the Rolling Stones, and Paint It Black is one of my favorite songs they've made. It's a certified banger. The character's name is Black Adam. The song is called Paint It Black. I mean, come on. I feel like we all should have known and expected someone like The Rock to use that song for a fight scene in the movie. I personally thought it worked well and didn't have any issue with it. I will admit that Kanye's song Power felt a bit rinse and repeat when it played during the break-in to the Ethereum mine. The song itself and the lyrics were okay in my opinion, because in Teth Adam's situation, it really can be said that no one man should have all that power. Unfortunately, the song has just been overplayed in many different movies where a powerful being or beings are fighting someone. So hearing it once again for a fight scene involving a powerful being was just like, ugh. The Ethereum mine scene had a moment I found quite interesting and was something that happened a few different times throughout the film. Teth has a lot of pent-up anger and rage. Born out of rage. I'm sorry, I just thought the way he said that during his convo with Hawkman was freaking funny, and I don't know why. It's just the way he said it. Born out of rage. Alright, okay, I'm done. Anyway, he has anger issues. Reasonable anger issues. And he had these moments where he would just go Super Saiyan Alpha Omega and completely obliterate anything and everything in sight. Him murking the Tyrant King who once ruled Kahndaq, him being tag teamed by the Justice Society, and him saving Skateboard Kid from Sabak. Yeah, I'm calling Crown Lady's son Skateboard Kid because I can't remember his name either. Were the 3 moments where he just completely lost his tiss. It was a recurring thing throughout the film, which had put his powers on full display, and was kind of portrayed as being precursors to him potentially destroying the entire world. Though near the end of the film, he was given a pretty good speech from Dr. Fate, telling him he can be the world's destroyer, or he can aspire to be its savior. That speech, along with Hawkman telling him he can and has to control his power and rage, was enough to keep Black Adam from completely nuking Kahndaq when splitting Sabak in half, Mortal Kombat style. After everything was said and done, he takes his place on the throne, and all is good, right? Well, actually, yeah. But also no. There are scenes like this. Thor at the end of Ragnarok taking his place as king of Asgard, his people. Though Thor is more than just a protector of Asgard. Thor is also a hero, and he knows he is. Then there's the scene of Teth Adam flying above his throne and then proceeds to smash it. Unlike Thor, Black Adam is not a hero. He knows he's not a hero, and says it multiple times throughout the film to make it clear to people. But, like Thor, Black Adam is a protector of the people who reside in his home, Kahndaq. That's all Black Adam is. He isn't a hero, and he isn't necessarily a villain either. He is simply a protector of his people, a protector of Kahndaq, and is nothing more. Wow, let's play a game. Take a chug of Yoo-hoo every time I say the word actually in this video. Anyway, I really enjoyed how the film went about portraying Black Adam in regard to where his status lies as either hero or villain. I was expecting they would try to make him out to be more like an anti-hero, but no, not even. It was made clear multiple times throughout the film that Teth Adam is not a hero and that he does not see himself as one. Even at the very end, after the quote, hero's victory, he smashes the throne because he thinks it feels wrong for him to be sitting there. He thinks it feels wrong because despite saving Kahndaq, he still doesn't see himself as a hero. Because he isn't. His ways of handling threats and liberating innocent civilians is not the quote, hero's way of doing it. Instead, he considers the people of Kahndaq themselves as its heroes, and rather sees himself as simply being its protector. The whole idea of people not always needing a white knight, and sometimes needing something a bit darker, is what I would consider was the main theme of the movie. It was a refreshing take for a main character in a comic book film, as I feel like that take isn't something done too often. I am well aware that there are tons of morally gray characters in the actual DC and Marvel comic books, but when talking specifically about comic book films, or even shows, the vast majority of main characters are true, definitive heroes. So it's always interesting to see stories of main characters in movies or shows who are the protagonist but are not exactly a hero. After all, whether the main character is a hero or a villain, at the end of the day, they are a comic book character above all else. We more often than not call these type of films and shows superhero movies and superhero shows, but the main protagonist isn't always a hero. Again, they are still an animated or live action adaptation of a comic book character. The more appropriate and fitting but less used terms for these type of films and shows are comic book movies and comic book shows. Alright, I feel that pretty nicely wraps up the main portion of this video, which was my discussion on my thoughts about The Rock's portrayal as Teth/Black Adam. Now on to other parts of the film I want to briefly touch on. So one of the main things Dwayne had been doing during press tour interviews is hyping up a guaranteed clash between his Black Adam and Henry the GOAT Cavill's Superman. The actual film itself teased it in multiple ways, with Teth shooting a blast of lightning from his hands at the poster of Superman as he woke up in Skateboard Kid's room. Then again, when all the posters and figurines of the Justice League were destroyed during the Black Adam/Hawkman fight. It honestly felt very on the nose and tongue-in-cheek. Like, the film wasn't being subtle at all about it. It was very much visually telling the audience, yo, Black Adam will definitely be fighting Superman soon, and possibly the Justice League too. I didn't not like it, it's just it felt like I was being hit by a truck with the words, Black Adam vs. Superman is happening! Decaled on it, rather than someone in school subtly passing me a note during class with the words, Black Adam could potentially have an encounter with Superman, written on it. I thought it was a fun way of teasing to the audience about the fight between Black Adam and Superman that unfortunately will now never come to pass. So Ishmael, who later turned into the movie's villain, Sabak. I mean, he was there. I didn't really have an issue with his character. I didn't love him or hate him. He was okay. He served his purpose. Seemed like just a chill guy. For like the first 3 minutes of screen time he has. Before it was very clearly obvious that he was the one who pushed their other member off the cliff. When Crown Lady was like, yo, where's player 4 at? Ishmael said, he just needed some air. In a blatantly sinister way. This was right after we saw Player 4 drop into Kondak Battle Royale, though was the first player to die due to not activating his parachute. The last descendant of the Tyrant King, of course. And now Sam hell-bent on getting the Demon Crown, in order to be killed, sent to Hell, and then be reborn as Sabak, becoming Kondak's next Tyrant King. Though, now thinking about it a bit more as I'm typing the script, how exactly did Ishmael know that Black Adam killing him would send him to hell? I know that the crown had an inscription that said something like, "Death is the path to life" on it, but, like, how did he know that he would be sent to hell if he was holding the crown as he died? The crown is literally cursed by demons, so I suppose that's the logic of how it was possible? I know, I'm thinking too much into this. It's a comic book film about a 5,000-year-old man who can fly and has lightning powers given to him by wizards. Once he was revived as Sabak and respawned into Kondak Battle Royale, he was just the typical generic one-note CGI monster. Again, I didn't love or hate it. It was okay, and it served its purpose of being a big bad for Black Adam to have a final fight with. I will admit though, I thought the CGI for Sabak, and for most of the movie as a whole, was surprisingly a bit above average. This is one of the only films where Dwayne Johnson is the main character, and on top of that, this movie was his passion project. So due to those two things, I wouldn't be surprised if he poured some of his own financial funds into the production of this movie, and was probably very adamant about all the special effects looking as top tier as they can be. I honestly thought everything CGI-wise looked pretty solid. The CGI in this movie alone looked better than all the CGI throughout the entirety of the MCU's Phase 4. Even though shots like this happened. Why the frick were there multiple terribly edited shots like this of Black Adam? This one was the worst of them all, like, what? Not what, but what? There's no way that the person editing this shot genuinely thought to themselves, "Yep, this looks great," without seeing how ridiculous The Rock looks here. This shot must have been intentionally made to look bad just for the lulz and memes. The person editing it was probably more like, "Yep, this looks great. Great for meme material." Okay, now let's talk about the Justice Society. Wow, I was not expecting to enjoy them as much as I did. Other than Teth Adam himself, the Justice Society were the other main highlight of the film. Carter Hall and Kent Nelson are portrayed in the film, in the DCEU, as being seasoned veteran versions of Hawkman and Dr. Fate. Cyclone and Atom Smasher, don't remember the characters' in-universe names, are portrayed as being the newbie/rookie/next generation versions of Cyclone and Atom Smasher. They all have short, sweet introductions. I really enjoyed seeing them fight together and their display of teamwork and cooperation. It was just a fresh, fun vibe to see a superhero team getting along and working well together on and off the field. The first Avengers film and first Guardians film had the teams bickering and butting heads throughout a majority of those first films. So although it was made clear that the Justice Society had already been established a while before the film, it was still just nice to see them working well together from the get-go. I don't really have much to say about Cyclone or Atom Smasher. They were both great and fun to watch, both having small, loose bits of lore explained. At least just enough for the audience to get a basic feel of them and what they're about. I think it's cool that the next generation Atom Smasher is the nephew of the OG Atom Smasher. He had like a fun, sporadic Tom Holland Spider-Man vibe to him. I've noticed in quite a few different team-up movies now, it feels like there's that one character that's supposed to be comic relief, and just comes off as feeling like Tom Holland's version of Spider-Man from Captain America Civil War. I honestly don't know if I think it's an issue or not. As of now, I'm indecisive about it. As for Cyclone, I also really enjoyed the visual effects for her wind powers. That's pretty much it. I didn't think she was a bad character at all, just don't have much to say about her from all we saw. Hawkman and Dr. Fate, though. These two were the standout characters in the film, and were also my favorite characters in the movie. Aldous Hodge as Carter Hall and Pierce Brosnan as Kent Nelson were fantastic. They both had such great synergy in their scenes together, and it all felt very natural. They were playing seasoned versions of the characters who have been doing the superhero thing together for quite some time now, and it was able to be felt. Even though this was the characters' first on-screen appearance in the DCEU, the history between them was able to be felt. What I really liked about Hawkman is that he was an example of the White Knight that Kent was talking about during his speech to Black Adam in the third act of the film. Hawkman was an exact juxtaposition to Black Adam, and some of the entertaining humor in the film was seeing them both bickering about how the other handles threats and liberates civilians. I also love how Carter is just a complete savage Chad and has no real visible expression or reaction when Kent tells him, "Aight, you want to know the outcome of this mission so bad? Well, the helmet told me you're gonna die." He just shrugged it off and was like, "I fear no death." Which is exactly why Kent didn't tell him what the outcome would be. Kent has known Carter long enough to know he doesn't fear the Grim Reaper, but he knows that the Justice Society needs Carter as leader, and also sincerely cares about him as a friend, and doesn't want Carter to face the Reaper's scythe. Not if he can change fate. See what I did there? I made it funny. No? Alright, it's fine. Which made it feel organic and genuinely heartfelt when Dr. Fate literally sealed his fate. Okay, nah, come on! That was definitely clever! When Dr. Fate used his magic to block off the throne area where Sabak was at, I was able to feel the emotions between Kent and Carter. Carter was all ready to go in and knock on death's door, but no. Kent chose to sacrifice himself in order to spare the life of his friend. And his fight with Sabak was so amazing to watch. Pretty much anything Pierce did as Dr. Fate or as Kent was awesome to watch. He just has this slightly grizzled charm in his voice and face that made him, even just sitting in a chair, being referee of the Black Adam and Hawkman brawl, a joy to watch. Seeing all the Dr. Fate clones pinning down Sabak was cool, and his dialogue during the fight was nice too. The way Pierce's voice was altered to sound when he had the helmet on, that was freaking top tier, yo. That voice, for me, rivaled voices like Josh Brolin's Thanos and Ray Porter's Darkseid in terms of epic sounding voices for live action versions of comic book characters. He sounded freaking godlike, and I was all there for it. It really sucks that he actually died. I thought he possibly pulled an Uno reverse card on Sabak and would arrive back on the field to pull off a clutch play and assist Hawkman and Black Adam during the last moments of the fight. I had no idea that in the comics, the Helmet of Fate works similarly to the Lantern Rings, consciously flying off to seek out his next wielder once its current wielder is no longer alive. I found that out through fans and review articles on social media because everyone was saying,
"Anyone who read comics knows that this isn't the last we've seen of Dr. Fate."
And for once, I was that person who hadn't read the comics and wasn't aware that the helmet would seek out a new wielder. Usually, I'm one of the people who has read comics and knows about certain things more than the casual fan does. So it felt odd being on the other end of the seesaw for once. Still though, Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate was already one of the best things in the DCEU for me. So I'm definitely a bit sad that we will more than likely never see his version of the character again. Pierce made the character have this very grandiose feel, and I was able to feel all the unexplored layers of nuance and depth to his character that was just waiting to be expanded upon. Although Dr. Fate didn't make it to the end of the film, an Ultimate Uno reverse card was still pulled from the deck, by Hawkman. Seeing Kent's version of Sabac's fatal blow to Hawkman play out in real time, followed by the reveal of it just being a clone, was very satisfying. Kent having taught Carter a few tricks with the helmet further shows the level of trust and respect that the two had for each other. Hawkman and Dr. Fate were both MVPs, and both actors delivered wonderful performances. I'm just itching to see and learn the history of how the OG DCEU Justice Society team was formed, and see some of their earlier escapades. I just really want to see more of them, and would definitely love to see a whole Justice Society movie. Preferably as a flashback film so that we can see and learn the stuff I mentioned in my previous sentence. Then, if they were to make a second film, it could be set in modern day with the remaining members of the team we saw in Black Adam. Heyo, this is Joe from around 9 months after I completed the script for this video. What I talk about next is the mid-credit scene from the movie. Multiple things I said in the next and final section of this video are now very outdated due to the entire regime change for DC. With the formation of DC Studios and James Gunn, as well as Peter Safran, becoming the two CEOs of all DC media. I didn't want to completely scrap all of what I said about the mid-credit scene, because most of it still accurately shares my thoughts and opinions about it. It was very salvageable. Though I did have to do some rewrites for my discussion about what the scene meant for future DC films at that moment in time, and make changes according to the new current status quo of the future of DC's films. With that said, let's go back to Joe from the time of the film's release. Now, about that mid-credit scene. Holy frick, that scene was hype! I don't know if it's just me who experiences this, but you know when you're seeing something that is so exciting that your mind and ears become blurred? As in you can see what's happening, but you're having a difficult time comprehending and hearing what you're seeing? Has that ever happened to you? It's happened to me quite a few times while watching certain scenes in certain movies or shows for the first time. And it happened to me while watching Super Cavill finally escape the gulag and spawn back into the DCEU. Until James Gunn had instantaneously yoinked him right out of it again. During my first viewing of it, my eyes were just so mesmerized by how incredible Cavill looked that my ears didn't comprehend any of the dialogue he said. So then when watching it a second time the next weekend, I listened and the short dialogue from him was definitely... Jeez, alright. Now take a chug of Yoo-hoo every time I say the word definitely. It was for sure something Cavill's version of Superman would say. I really liked how that, it's been a while since something has made the world this nervous, was in reference to himself, as he was the last thing the world saw that made them highly uneasy. He finally had an appearance with the classic curl in his hair, the outfit looked top tier, and I knew I had this odd feeling of deja vu when I saw it. It's awesome that Henry himself was actually given the option to choose which version of his suit to wear for the scene. I agree with his reasoning for choosing the Man of Steel version of the suit. It was symbolic for him. That suit is the one he wore when his Superman journey began, and now, in a way, it was beginning once again. Until the whole DC Studios shakeup happened very shortly after. So he went back to the suit he wore when it all, literally the DCEU as a whole, all started. albeit having been tuned up a bit with brighter colors, which I am okay with, seeing as now Snyder completed his wonderful, though misunderstood by many, arc for Cavill's Superman. Starting out as a confused individual trying to find his purpose and place in the world, to the now hopeful and optimistic man he became by the end of the Snyder Cut. A suit with brighter colors to go along with the more optimistic personality we could have expected to see from him in the next Henry Cavill-led Superman film, that will now never happen. Despite my thoughts on The Rock's acting, I have to give the man credit where credit is due. Yeah, there were other internal factors at play, but at the end of the day, it truly is him who we all owed our thanks to for Henry Cavill permanently returning to the role of Superman in the DCEU. Again, until he was plucked in the cojones by the higher powers at play. Dwayne Johnson fought Warner Bros. Intensely for it to happen, and WB were no match for the level of sheer star power he has within the film industry. Though James Gunn ended up dismantling any and all power The Rock possessed. At the time, Dwayne had pretty much stormed to Warner Bros. And told them, Black Adam is my movie, and I want Henry Cavill's version of Superman in it. Face and all. No cut off head or shadows to mask him. I want Cavill to be fully visible and present in the scene. And as much as The Rock had been boasting about Black Adam's power levels and saying, the hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change. The freaking meme, I love it. The hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change. I'm sorry, it's freaking hilarious that it got memed to oblivion. And now almost a year later after the movie's release, it's even more hilarious that, yes, the hierarchy of power in the DC universe definitely did change. Just not at all in the way The Rock expected it to. Anyway, as much as Dwayne was hyping up Black Adam as being more powerful than all the other DCEU characters, I can at least appreciate that he has enough basic comic book knowledge to know and respect that is Superman, who is still the most powerful DC character. Aside from maybe Darkseid. He made that clear in the Black Adam press tour interviews by making comments like, quote,
"We will create Black Adam for him to be the most powerful and unstoppable force on this planet. The most powerful and unstoppable force in the entire universe has been on the sidelines for too long."
Unlike most mega media corporations, The Rock truly did listen to the fans and not only bring Cavill back as Superman, but also acknowledged himself and within the mid-credit scene that Superman is the most powerful force in the DC universe. Dwayne Johnson speaking higher about Superman than Black Adam and letting Henry Cavill completely overshadow him in the mid-credit scene tells me that he seemingly cared more about the film and fans than he cared about his own ego. Even if it was at least just for this one movie. I think that wraps everything up. Now to just cap off the video with some final thoughts. Again, I went into this film with low to mid expectations. I wasn't anticipating anything to absolutely wow me or blow me away. And more than anything, I was just concerned that Dwayne Johnson would deliver a lackluster performance and wouldn't be able to be serious for this serious character. But whoa. Wow, he sure proved me wrong. He delivered an exceptionally well performance as Teth Black Adam, and the film as a whole just completely surprised me and threw me off guard with how enjoyable it was for me. Let me know in the comments your brief or extensive thoughts about the film if you've seen it. I love engaging with my viewers and would love to see what you have to say. Alright, that's it. Good times and positive vibes, everyone. Stay humble. Stay grateful.